recorded so I can review what I've done and critique it myself. Okay, back to introductions. So my name is Pancharatna Das, and I have been associated with the Krishna consciousness movement for about 50 years now, 52, going on 52 years. Spent a lot of time here in New York City, but then I moved to India in 1976 and met my wife, Bhakti School, sitting there. And that is our home, but this is kind of our second home. We both spent time here. I spent about 5 years here from 1971 to 76. And so we like to be here, especially when it gets very hot in India. We like to come here. I do a lot of things in this society, and one of them is a project which is called chantnow.com. It's an online website. My grandson was handing you out little cards so that you all know about it, which has the mantra on it and our website on it. And I've been presenting here over the past few months, maybe once a month or so, sections of a course that we offer on our website called Mantra Meditation, Wisdom, and Practice. And so far we've presented three parts of this course, and today we're going to present the fourth part. And we're going to kind of expand on one of the topics in the course, which is mindfulness to heartfulness. Okay, that's our topic tonight. So let me just get my PowerPoint set up. Hopefully this will work. We spend a little time beforehand to, let's see. Something's happening there, okay. And you'll see him in this course. He's called the Super Soul. Okay, so let's get started. As I said, chantnow.com is the source of this presentation. And after the talk tonight, we can talk a little bit about how you can also participate. As I said, the course is titled Mantra Meditation, Wisdom, and Practice. And in the previous sessions that I've done here, we've covered the first, about 7 or 8, 9, I'll count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of the lessons. We covered, it all begins with the search for happiness, because that's where everything begins, right? This is life, search for happiness. But then it proceeds to ask the question, who am I? Because before you can find happiness, you have to know yourself. Which leads us to what the nature of consciousness is. And that leads us to look at what, not only who we are, but where we are. What's our place in the universe? What are we connected with? And that leads then into the language of yoga, which came into then a topic, very important topic for Bhakti yoga, which are the three aspects of the divine. From there, we covered a very important element of our tradition, when the name and the named are the same. It talks about the mantras. We talked about the yoga of love, and in the last session, we especially focused on spirituality, religion, or both. Okay. And today, we're going to focus on mindfulness to heartfulness. Now, raise your hand if you've heard of mindfulness. If you don't, then you're from another planet. I mean, there's even you go into Whole Foods, and on the magazine rack there's a magazine now, mindfulness magazine, right? I mean, mindfulness is taught so it's become a buzzword, right? Mindfulness. Particularly, it's used in relationship to a kind of meditation, right? I like this little image of what mindfulness is like, where you're mindful, okay? it's generally speaking, our minds are full of all kinds of thoughts and emotions and perceptions and experiences and so on, impressions. And generally, it's not what's around us. It's not what we're actually within. It's another world that we get lost in. When I sit for meditation, I often consider that my thoughts are like a train, right? The train of thought, right? It starts rumbling in that train, and it lands right in front of you, and you're offered a seat. You have a choice. Get on board and go along with the train of thought, which goes everywhere but where you are. So mindfulness and meditation is generally a practice of just being mindful of where you are and what's going on, and not absorbed in all the rest of what's going on in that region, which is what? Is it the brain or what? So this is the next question when we talk about mindfulness to heartfulness. We're going to talk about what is mind and what is heart. These are necessary questions. Now, the brain, we know, is an organ of the body, and it certainly has a connection to our mind, because if we do things with our brain, it influences what happens in our mind. But mind is much more than what's going on in the brain. This picture tries to kind of indicate how the brain kind of sits there as an organ of nerves and synapses and hormones that are mushing around there. But when we speak of mind, we're thinking of a lot of stuff that goes on in thinking, feeling, and willing. This is the way that mind is described in the Vedas, particularly, as the seat of thinking, which sochana, the feeling, anabhav karana, and willing, ishta karana. Isha karana. My daughter is there. She's a Sanskrit scholar. Okay, Icha. So willing, Icha is desire. So, and these are brought together to result in action. That when there is thinking, some idea, some concept, which gives rise to a feeling, I didn't include this little slide, but it was a little cartoon of somebody in bed who's thinking, it's time to get up. Right? The thought comes in, well, it's time to get up. But then the feeling comes in, I want to stay in bed. Right? The feeling. And then finally the will arises one way or the other, either staying in bed or getting up. So the mind is the focal point of these three activities. So, and last session, I think it was here in the Bhakti night, there was a session on mind as well, being either a friend or an enemy. And so if you were there, you heard more about the nature of mind, that can be our friend if it feels the right things, thinks the right things, feels the right things, and wills the right things, then it's great. But if it keeps you in bed when you're supposed to be going to work or doing something else, then it can be a big obstacle, right? Okay, so now what is heart? What are we talking about when we talk about heart? Because our topic today is to go from from mindfulness as a meditative practice to heartfulness. And this is essential to the whole idea of bhakti. So heart, okay, so is it just, another organ like the brain? There is definitely an organ we call the heart, a physical organ. And it's interesting that physical organ is also very much connected to the physical organ of the brain. The two are very intimately related with each other. There's heartbreak, right? Many of you probably have had some occasion where you felt the broken heart, right? I don't have to ask. It's or embarrassing, But yeah, it's something that we've all experienced. And it turns out that there's a physical reaction. This has been studied in medical journals. That what happens when the emotions of the feelings that we ascribe to having a broken heart, they arise within us, then it actually does affect the heart. And people can have the symptoms of a heart attack with a broken heart. And I can't remember the name. It's been, there's some Japanese octopus trap. Anyway, I can't remember. But which is the name of this syndrome in medicine, because it kind of looks like what happens when there's broken heart syndrome. Oops. We also have studies that show a connection between what is called the heart variability rate. Now, the heart variability rate is the way in which the rhythm of the heart changes. It's not that our hearts are always in the same rhythm. They can speed up, they can go, there's various types of rhythm. And they've studied how different moods, different experiences, different emotions will affect this. There's one member of our society, a doctor, I believe he's based in Denver, I think, who's recently published an article where they doing studies on the effect of mantra meditation on this heart variability rate. And because heart variability rate happens to have a great deal of connection with health, in fact, so it's important. So we've got the heart as a physical organ, we've got the brain as a physical organ, we've got the mind there, we've got feelings and emotions, and often what we seem to come to is a sort of a battle between the heart and the mind. The heart being the emotional seat, what we identify at least with the seat of emotions. When we think of our heart, we're thinking of the place in which we're feeling all these emotions. Now the Vedas actually describe that these emotions take place in the mind. So if we put this all together, we then see that brain and heart together as organs function as part of the mental platform when we're functioning on the material level. And often the rational part of our brain struggles with the emotions of our heart, and we try to reach a more alignment between our heart and our brain and our mind. And there's many different practices that are designed for this. I found this interesting, that how Plato talks about this, how all our behavior flows from these sources of desire, emotion, and knowledge. So desire coming from that place of heart, emotion also coming from that place of heart and mind, and knowledge, of course, generally associated with the realm of the mind. So what is Bhakti Yoga all about? Now I'm going to come to the next lesson of our course, and we'll just watch that.
So far in this course, you've heard the term Bhakti Yoga quite a few times. In this lesson, we will provide you with a more complete overview of the term. When we think of yoga, we generally think of practices that help us improve our physical and mental health. But the ancient yoga system of India is actually far more comprehensive. Its true goal is to improve the heart, the soul, the essence of ourselves. This yoga of the heart awakens our deepest capacities for love, kindness, and compassion, enabling us to live a happier, more fulfilling life. This yoga of the heart is called Bhakti Yoga. What do I mean by heart? I mean that place within our being, our consciousness, our self, that energizes our lives, our thoughts, and our actions, either with good, kind, and loving energy, or negative energy, fear, doubt, envy, greed. The process of bhakti is to train and clean the heart engine to produce an ever-increasing positive energy imbued with courage, kindness, and compassion, which will bring forth the greatest joy and happiness we can experience and sustain in all situations. The essence of this process is loving service. Service, or seva in Sanskrit, is the common denominator in all Bhakti Yoga practices and philosophical concepts. In fact, the most accurate translation of Bhakti Yoga is devotional service. Similarly, the Bhakti Yogi is often called simply a devotee. In earlier topics, we talked about how each one of us is a spiritual being, an eternal part of the Supreme Being. Understanding that we are part of God naturally leads us to understand that we are meant to serve God, just as parts of the body serve the whole body. It is said in the Bhakti literature that the constitutional nature of the soul is service, just like the constitutional nature of fire is heat. Our choice is in what or whom to serve. Bhakti teachers often give the analogy of the roots and branches of a tree. When we try to find satisfaction through service to our bodies and minds, our extended material relationships, it is like pouring water on the leaves of a tree. But when we serve Krishna, God, it is like watering the root, and we, the branches and leaves, receive nourishment. And what does Krishna want? Only our love. The Vedas say, Ekoham Bahushyam. From one I become many. God is one, but he manifests unlimited energies. Why? Anandamaya Vyashak, to experience Ananda, joy, bliss, through loving relationships. Awakening to our eternal, loving relationship with God is the goal of Bhakti Yoga, and the means and the end are the same, to engage ourselves fully in loving service. Chanting the divine names of the Supreme with loving attention is the easiest way to begin our devotional service. When you first began chanting, you may have approached it as simply an aid to meditation, a powerful spiritual vibration to focus on. This is the gift of God, to extend himself to us in his names, even if our motivations are self-centered. But to fully connect with the divine, we need to move beyond our egos and approach God in his names with the mood of prayer. Understanding our true nature as loving servants of the one Supreme Being, the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Person. Thus, we find the Maha Mantra carrying a prayerful meaning. O Lord, O Divine Energy, please engage me in your service. Adopting this mood in your meditation is the key to going deeper, to unlocking the doors to your own eternal spiritual identity. to experiencing the unlimited love of Sri Krishna and reviving your own natural, spiritual, selfless love for him. In addition to chanting, there are many other ways to practice devotional service, to the point that your whole life becomes spiritually energized, raising you to those high states of consciousness we spoke of in the beginning of this course. When you squeeze an orange, what do you get? Orange juice. What's inside is what comes out. By raising yourself to Krishna consciousness, the state of loving God, that love will flow out into the world, into everything you do. In other words, by changing your consciousness, you can change the world. All the world's religious traditions call us to love one another, but all too often we find ourselves falling short, acting without love for anyone but ourselves. The process of bhakti awakens our capacity to love everyone fully by realizing we are all children of the same loving Father.
So here in that lesson, you've seen a shift in the mindfulness arena of meditation and the arena of thinking about mind, emotions, and so on. We're dealing with how to have a better life in this world. People can practice, they teach mindfulness in corporate America. For what purpose? Make more money.
To increase production.
Increase production. Reduce turnover.
6 days.
It's inefficient.
Reduce
in
the
their
6
deal
days.
size.
And people meditate often in the same mood. I want to get rid of stress. I mean, some of our members here are experienced going out into the world and asking people to receive this path of bhakti. And they often begin by asking, you've heard of stress, right? How many times? It's like, I mean, have you heard of stress? I mean, you feel stressed sometimes?
Absolutely.
Yes, you do, right?
But it's always from others, not myself.
Ah, that's the nature of the world. The world is going to stress us out, right? So people turn to meditation, they turn to mindfulness, and they turn to many forms of meditation in order to get relief. We feel the pressure, we feel pain. So Bhakti is suggesting that that's not enough. To experience or to use the techniques of meditation and mindfulness and so on, yes, you can reduce your stress. You can get a better, everything. But you still are faced with a problem in the heart. So now we're going to look a little bit more to the heart. The Vedas tell us that God is in our hearts. Now this particular form that God takes here is called Paramatma or Vishnu. This particular form is Vishnu or Narayan. There's 4 arms. The 4 arms hold different symbols. One is the symbol of a conch shell, a lotus. Both of these represent God's grace, God's ability to give us his love. But in his other two hands, he holds a club and a disc. Now, this disc is not an ordinary disc. It's called the Sudarshan Chakra. And this chakra, or this disc, represents the most powerful weapon that can destroy anything. It also represents the wheel of time. So in this expression that Krishna gives us of himself in our hearts, we see him as as that personality of the divine that lives with us always. You can see in this image how that personality of Krishna in this form resides not only in our hearts, but in the hearts of all living beings. In fact, even within the atoms. This presence of God within us, in our hearts, and we'll get more to what we mean by heart. In the video, you heard the teacher explaining how when we speak of heart, we mean that place within us from which the energy comes that influences everything that we do. Later we'll talk about how that is connected with desire and how it's connected with love. This is another story that we find in the Vedas about how Krishna is with us. And it represents, you can see two birds. So another term for Krishna in our hearts is Param Atma, or the Supreme Soul. And another term for us is Atma, or Jivatma, the individual soul. So as a Jivatma, as an individual soul, we're like the bird here that is tasting all the fruits of the tree of life. And Krishna is like the bird on the right who's watching what we do, supporting us with intelligence, memory, forgetfulness, supporting our urges as the controller of everything. Man proposes and God disposes. So according to our desires, our hearts, according to the nature of our hearts, Krishna within us will guide us and arrange things. Of course, we'll also have to deal with our karma based on what we've done in the past. But in this situation, we can understand that the state of our hearts is not pure. It's messy. It's dirty. It's covered with dust that's accumulated for lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes. And it's like behind a steel cage, the heart in material life. It pulses with desire and need and hopes. But it runs always into frustration. So Bhakti Yoga teaches us that we have to clean the heart. We have to clean our hearts. Bhakti Yoga is a process of heart cleaning, heart washing. And it's also a process of unlocking, of opening up those cages, opening the doors, removing the locks that hold us within the realm of material life and allows us to find the true fruit of our hearts, which is love of Krishna, Krishna prema. We're called to see the heart like a throne. We have to remove all the dirt and gates and locks and so on. And within, we have to establish a seat. Where we can invite God by chanting and singing his names to sit there. Oops. Krishna. We have to invite him. We have to invite him to sit on our hearts with Sri Radha and all of his world. So this is the heartfulness that Bhakti Yoga is offering. So I mentioned in the beginning, those of you who are here, about how this Bhakti Yoga practice in today's world has come to us, and how this heartfulness, this language of the heart, this yoga of the heart has been given. And we talked about Sri Chaitanya. So I'll spend just a few minutes to introduce you to Sri Chaitanya, who gave us this practice of Bhakti Yoga in today's world. Sri Chaitanya appeared in our world about 500 years ago in India, in the place that my wife and I live. It's called Mayapur, part of a greater area called Navadvip. And his life is very astounding and very interesting, and we don't have time to really go deeply into it. Perhaps in some future lessons we can talk more about the life of Sri Chaitanya. But suffice it to say that after completing his studies and entering into his married life and beginning his teaching, he went on a pilgrimage and returned. And during that pilgrimage, he met his the person who was to be his guru, his teacher, and was transformed into a madman of love for God. And he began teaching the path of Bhakti Yoga, particularly through the practice of kirtan, of Sankirtan. It's our understanding that he is actually Krishna, but that Krishna, speaking to us through Bhagavad Gita, that we must surrender to him, we must follow him, we must worship him, felt a need to show us, by his own example, how to do this. And he also felt the need to experience it for himself. So as Sri Chaitanya, we understand that Krishna is experiencing the life of a bhakti yogi. So he taught us this practice. and we'll end here, or nearly, with this teaching. He didn't actually compose much literature himself. He gave that responsibility to his followers, who did compose many, many books. This is quite small, so I'm going to read it out for you. And it's in Sanskrit. But it goes like this. This is part of his teaching, which is called Shikshashtakam, 8 ashtaks, or eight verses of teaching. And it goes like this: Cheto Darpana Marjanam. So I'll just give the translation as we go along. So it begins, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, that which cleanses the heart. So this verse is about the power of kirtan, what we were doing in the beginning and what we will do just after this talk. We're going to do more kirtan. The power of singing, chanting, and praising Krishna in his names. How the power of that is capable of cleansing our hearts. Cheto Darpana Marjanam, Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam, to extinguish the fire of material conditioned life of repeated birth and death. Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam, Chandrika. It's the prime benediction for humanity because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon, and that we could talk, that's why the moon image is there. The blessings of transcendental knowledge. It is Vidya Vidu Jivanam, it is the life of all transcendental knowledge. Anandam Buddhivardhanam, it increases the ocean of transcendental bliss. And Pradipadam Purnamrita Svadanam, it enables us to fully taste the nectar which we are anxious for. Sarvatma Snapanam. Everyone appreciates this. Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. So this Sri Krishna Sankirtan, this kirtan, that is the prime method by which we can cleanse our hearts. Chanting the Maha Mantra, chanting the names of Krishna, singing together, coming together, putting aside the material desires that we have, and opening our hearts. When you do kirtan with others, you'll often hear the kirtan leaders will call out, says, chant with your heart, sing out with your heart. So we're called to look within, to find that place within us that is pushing us, that center of our energy, that center that is leading us in this direction or that direction. It's the center, the core of our desire. And we're called to find that place and take that energy of want, that energy of desire, that energy of love that is now focused on ourselves, and turn it to Krishna through kirtan. Srila Prabhupada describes that this love of God is dormant. It's there within us. That energy, that heartfulness is there within us. And if we can realize it, that is the fulfillment of our purest ambition. So, that is what I wanted to share with you tonight, how we can go from the idea of meditation and yoga and mindfulness and other forms that will help us, certainly will help us to be more peaceful, to feel less stressed, to be more productive, and many other things perhaps, to go further, to go deeper, and to see what is that calling from the heart. What is the heart's desire? The true heart's desire, not the mind's heart's desire. Often we confuse our real heart with the mental construction of feelings and thoughts, and the physical as well. Things, there are things that will just roil us up and create all kind of, and our hearts start to beat fast, and there's all this physical action going on that we think is, heart. But it's just the body, it's just the mind, it's just the physical engagement that we have. But we do have heart. We are, in one sense, made of heart. That is our essence. And we have to free it. So, that is Kirtan's promise to lift us up, to free us, and take us from being caught up in our minds and enter into the realm of the heart and to experience divine love. Love that is pure, love that is perfect, love that can never end, and love that is reciprocated by Krishna in the most full and complete way. In fact, his love for us far exceeds our love for him. So, thank you. I hope this has been somewhat, you've learned something from it, helped you to understand what Bhakti Yoga is all about. So if there are any questions on what we've been talking about, we can discuss those, and then we can do more kirtan. So, last slide. Yes. Thank you. Any questions?
I'm curious, the whole point is to open your heart so that it can be filled with something pure. But how do you know that you're opening it properly? Because sometimes you can feel like that was just in my head. You sometimes have experiences when everything outside makes you feel like you should feel stressed, but you're at peace. And you wake up the next day and you're back to normal, and you're like, that was a fluke. How do you know you're actually progressing and it's not just in your head?
When the word that you've used of progressing, okay, to progress means that you have an idea, this is where I am, and this is where I want to go. So whenever we use the terminology of making progress, it means that we have a goal. So you have to try to understand, what is that goal? So once you know, you have a good picture of what the goal is and what it's like, then you can measure what your experiences are against that goal. So that's especially the role of our teachers and our scriptures, because our scriptures, especially we talked about Sri Chaitanya. Sri Chaitanya particularly was able to show us what the goal looks like. And he also, from time to time, when there were people who represented or perhaps portrayed that they had achieved some high state of spiritual development, but actually had some impurity in their development, he could point it out. And so those tools to be able to distinguish true progress in our spiritual development and things that may look like, or they may feel good, but are actually a bit of a diversion. Those tools are provided by the teachers and the experts, the masters, and the scriptures. So that's why it's not you know, it's not a path that one can stumble forward on and hope to get too far. You can, of course, you know, on your own, stumble ahead without a light. I often think about our paths like, okay, we're in a dark place, and there's trees and rocks and so on. And there is a path that goes through all of this, but without a light, and it's not easy. You may, you know, you'll end up hurting yourself quite a bit as you go forward. But if you have someone ahead of you with a light that shines it and you can follow, then it gets much easier. So the teachers, the gurus, the scriptures, they're all the lights for us to follow and help us to avoid those problems that you just described. You know, okay, how do I tell that this is real, or that this is that what I'm doing is going to actually. And of course, there's also Krishna in our hearts, and he's helping us. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Anyone? Yes?
When it comes to mindfulness and heartfulness, and just trying to discover the purity of one's heart, when it comes to the two and how the two entwines together, how does one be able to make sure that they can kind of keep both compartmentalized and controlled in a way in which it doesn't kind of like interfere with desire?
Yeah, how do we bring the path of mindfulness and the path of heartfulness together in harmony? Because we need mindfulness too, you know. I have to be clear that I'm not saying that, you know, forget about the mind, you know, and just leave it aside. If you do that, you're going to find yourself in the same boat of stress and anxiety and all other issues and problems which will prevent you from pursuing the path of the heart. So we need to somehow get control of the mind and make it a friend, like it was described in the last lesson. How do we make the mind a friend instead of an enemy? And that's where the practice of mantra meditation really helps, because this is a combination. With mantra meditation, which we call Japa, and we'll do some kirtan, I think. Or in some of our sessions, we do a little Japa.
As you'd like to.
So anyway, maybe we'll do just about a couple of minutes of Japa, and then we'll do some more kirtan. Well, how much time do we have?
It's 8 o'clock.
It's past 8.
Okay, so we don't really have much time. But let's just do, just because you're here for the first time. I don't know if have you ever done Japa meditation?
But I do have to be somewhere.
You have to go anyway. So, but basically the Japa meditation is the answer to his question. That it's where we bring the mind and the heart together. So when we do Japa, we have to deal with the mind because we're meditating. It's a process of meditation. So you're sitting down, and you have to be mindful. You have to be mindful of what? The mantra. Okay. So you turn the mindfulness to the mantra, and then you turn the heart to the mantra. So you have two things. You've got the mind, the mindfulness coming down, or being used to pay attention, to listen, and to be focused. But then you add the mood of prayer. You add the emotion. You add the feeling, Krishna. You add your heart to it. And then you begin to see the effects of the meditation increase. Okay? All right. So we'll do a little more kirtan. Maybe Eva would like to lead us with kirtan. Would you like to do it? Thank you very, very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Yeah, everyone could move the chairs to the sides.
Noah, what's good, G?
Oh, G.
It's good to see you. You too, as always.